I want to be upfront about something. I am not a copywriter. I'm not a marketing guru. I was a high school English teacher and a touring musician, and somehow I ended up running campaigns that generate millions of dollars for businesses that I've never met in person. And I get a big fat cut. And so here's how that happened. My wife and I moved our band to Nashville, indie pop rock, 4 years of touring, recording the whole thing. It was awesome. We didn't make it, like not in the way you're supposed to make it, but we had an experience that I wouldn't trade. And we came home, tails kind of tucked, and I went to work for her dad's local advertising agency. I was writing TV scripts, social posts, radio spots, like nothing that would make you call me a copywriter. But I kept noticing something. The marketing was working, like really working. The businesses that we were running campaigns for were making serious money, and I was on a salary. So I started asking a different question. Not how do I get better at marketing, but why am I always on the wrong side of this? Like, is there a deal structure that fixes that? So that question led me to a business owner who had run a 5-day challenge teaching people how to start an Amazon business. $37 entry, like 6,000 people went through it. And at the end of the 5 days, there was a day of pitching on a $5,000 course. Most of those people didn't buy. And those 6,000 people just sat there in a CRM. The business owner had already paid to acquire every single one of them through ads and content, through time, and then they moved on to their next launch. So I looked at that and I saw something different. I saw a found money partnership waiting to happen. So I came in as a partner, not a vendor. I didn't pitch a fee. I didn't put another line on the expense sheet. I said, I think there's real revenue in that list. Let me go find it. And if I'm right, we split it. And if I'm wrong, you owe me nothing. So we reworked the offer based on the actual objections that people had raised. We added $300 in product that the business already had, and we doubled the price to $10,000, $12,000 if they paid monthly. So then I wrote a very simple hand raiser email, managed the conversations through Gmail, built a Google Doc as the sales asset. No funnels, no ads, no sales calls, literally free tools only. Over the course of a year, we put over 100 people into that program. The business owner made more money per sale than he ever had, even after paying me my cut. And I made $4,000 for every single person we enrolled. 40% on money that was already there. That's what I call a found money partnership. And that's what $1 million list leverage is built around. Okay, so now let me describe something that you've probably already noticed, because if you're watching this, I don't think you're someone who misses things. You look at businesses, successful businesses, ones with real products, real customers, and you see it. You see the gap, the leads they paid for that never converted, the past buyers they're not following up with, the audience that they've built through years of content or ad spend, and they're just sitting there. Most businesses convert somewhere between, if they're lucky, 5 and 20% of the leads they acquire, which means 80 to 95% of every person they paid to get in the door never bought. So now, why is that number so high? Part of it's timing. Part of it is offer fit, but there's something else that is happening that most business owners aren't talking about. Buyers are just savvier now. They know a free webinar is really an infomercial in disguise. They know that a free strategy call is really just a sales call with a different name. They've been through enough of these that they've learned to protect their time, protect their calendars from like the whole process. So what happens, right? They opt in, they attend, they're genuinely interested in solving the problem, and then the moment they smell a pitch coming, they're out. They disappear. Not because they don't need the solution, because they don't want to be sold to in that way. And they still have the pain. They still want the outcome. They just don't want to raise their hand inside of a sales funnel. These are buyers who can't be reached through the typical sales process, but they can absolutely be reached through a conversation And that's a completely different thing. And that's where this model lives. So let me also name something else that's happening in this space right now, because I think it's part of why you're here. AI. If you've been doing any kind of marketing work, writing, strategy, campaign management, you've probably heard some version of, why would I pay you when I can just use ChatGPT? Ugh. Jesus. Maybe you've lost a gig to it. Maybe you've watched your rate get undercut because a client figured out that they could get good enough for free. Maybe you're just watching the writing on the wall and trying to figure out which side of it you want to be on. $1 million list leverage is how we use AI as a weapon instead of getting replaced by it. Because in this model, AI doesn't replace you. It makes you faster. And faster means more partnerships, more revenue, less time. We'll get to that. But first, let me show you what this model actually is. Here's the core idea. There are businesses out there right now, everywhere, that are genuinely successful. Real products, real results, customers who sing their praises. These aren't snake oil operations. These are people who built something that actually works and that actually helps people. And they have audiences, not cold traffic, warm audiences, people who found them organically or who came in through paid ads or went through a challenge or a webinar, people who raised their hand and said, I am interested in what you do. And a huge percentage of those people, the ones who didn't buy the first time, are sitting in that business's world unconverted. Not because the solution doesn't work, usually because something about the offer, the timing, or the way it was presented didn't land for them. Or because they spotted the sales process coming and stepped the hell out of the way. That gap between the audience they have and the revenue they're generating from it is what I call found money. And a found money partnership is the arrangement where you go in as a partner, not a vendor, and you go get it. You take a percentage of what you generate. The business keeps the rest. Nobody loses. And critically, you do it in a way that never gets in the way of what the business is already doing. It's completely bolt-on revenue. So here's the traditional model and why it doesn't serve people like us. The traditional model says, find a business, pitch your services, charge a fee. Your income resets every time a contract ends. You're capped by how many clients you can manage, and every time someone says, I can just use AI for this, your footing gets a little shakier. $1 million list leverage flips that deal entirely. So instead of charging a fee, you structure a partnership. You go find the found money. You get a percentage of what you bring in. And because you're using AI on the production side, you can run multiple partnerships without working more hours. You're not a contractor, you're not a vendor, you're a revenue partner. And revenue partners don't get replaced by ChatGPT because the value is not the writing. The value is seeing the opportunity, structuring the deal, and going to get the money. The best deal available to a skilled, opportunity-minded person right now is one where your upside is tied to the results you create, not the hours you log. So let me make this concrete. Here's how a found money partnership actually comes together. Step one, find the right business, the right partner business. You're looking for businesses that clear 3 bars. First, they have a warm audience. People who came to them through content, ads, a challenge, a webinar, people who opted in and said yes to learning more. Not cold leads, warm ones. Second, their solution actually works. You can find the testimonials. You can see the results. Customers are out there singing their praises. Like, this is a business with a real solution to a real present day pain, and you can verify that pretty quickly. Third, there is a meaningful gap between the size of that audience and the revenue that they're generating from it. They've got thousands of people who went through a challenge and a fraction who bought. That gap is where you live. These businesses are everywhere. Course creators, coaches, consultants, local service businesses with like years of past customers, online communities where the audience is engaged but the monetization is light. Once you start seeing the pattern, you'll see it everywhere. Step 2, pitch the partnership, not a service. Most people walk into a business conversation and pitch an expense, a proposal, a rate card, and the business owner's brain immediately goes to, what is this going to cost me? You're not doing that. You're saying, I see revenue in your world that isn't being captured. I'd like to go get it on my own time with my own effort. And if I'm right, and if it works, we split what comes in. And if I'm wrong, you owe me nothing. I walked in like a partner who was a paycheck for the business, not a service provider looking to put another expense on their balance sheet. I reduced all the risk. I made the decision small and easy. When there's no downside for the business owner, the answer is almost always yes. And when you make it a no-brainer, you start the relationship as a trusted partner, not a vendor fighting for budget. All right, step three. Run the 3-part conversation sequence. This is the heart of the model, and it's probably the most important thing I'm gonna tell you, because it's also why it works so well with buyers who've learned to avoid the typical sales process. There are 3 parts. The first is the hand raiser, a short, simple email that goes to the unconverted audience and asks one question. Are you still interested in solving this problem? No pitch, no pressure, just a genuine invitation for them to raise their hand. The people who reply are telling you exactly who to talk to. The second is the conversation, and I mean a real conversation, not a funnel, not a sequence, not an automated drip, actual back and forth emails or DMs through Gmail, email, whatever, with real human beings. You're trying to understand 4 things, at least. What's their present pain right now? How long have they been living with it? What have they already tried to solve it? What sucked about that? What would their life look like if that pain was gone? Like, what's the transformation that they're actually after? So you're not selling yet. You're listening. And most of these people haven't been listened to in a while, because every other touch point in their journey has been someone trying to pitch them something. The third is the offer. And this is where it gets nice and elegant. You take everything you learned in that conversation, their specific pain, their specific history, their specific desired outcome, and you send them to a Google Doc. Not a sales page, not a landing page, a friggin' Google Doc. Clean, clear, written in plain language. It lays out the offer in a way that speaks directly to their situation because it's built from what they told you. The doc doesn't change, but the framing around it does. And that's what makes it feel like it was written for them. They can read a $10,000 offer while they wait in line at Starbucks. No calendar invite, no Zoom link, no sales call, just a document that meets them exactly where they are. So think about what that means for the buyer who's been avoiding the typical sales process. You're not infiltrating their calendar. You're not trapping them on a call, and you're putting the information in their hands in a format that they can read on their own terms at their own pace whenever they are ready. That's not a sales hack. It's respect. And buyers who've been through enough funnels to be skeptical of everything, they feel that difference immediately. Step 4, collect your rev share, build your portfolio. When the campaign generates revenue, your partner pays your percentage. No invoices for hours. There's no scope creep. There's no, can you just add one more thing? You brought in the money. You get your cut. And here's what most people don't see until they've run their first partnership. This is a portfolio model, not a client model. You can have multiple partnerships running in parallel, each one producing rev share without requiring you to show up to a meeting or manage a team or answer to a client. You built the partnership, you structured the deal, you ran the campaign, and now it's producing. An agency scales by adding headcount and clients. $1 million list leverage scales by adding partnerships, with AI handling the production that used to require days of work. So let me go back to the business I told you about at the top, because I want to show you the full picture. This business ran a 5-day challenge on how to start an Amazon business. $37 to get in. About 6,000 people went through it. 4 days of genuinely useful content. Day 5 was the pitch. $5,000 course. It's a highly successful business. Real results, customers who built actual Amazon businesses using the program. Like there's testimonials, social proof, they're the real deal. And so when the challenge ended, the people who didn't buy just sat in the CRM. The business moved on to the next launch. Those unconverted leads were paid for, acquired, interested, and now they're going nowhere. So that's the found money that I saw. And the first thing I did was listen. I listened to why the people hadn't bought. The objection wasn't the price. It wasn't the content. People wanted more done for them. The DIY course wasn't what they needed. It wasn't what they wanted. They wanted someone building it with them. So we reworked the offer to match what they actually wanted. We added $300 in COGS that the business had already locked up in their catalog. We made it more tangible, repositioned the price, $10,000 or $12,000 if they wanted to pay monthly. And then I sent the hand raiser email. Short, simple, just asking who was still interested in the Amazon opportunity. The people who replied to us told us exactly who to talk to next. And from there, we had real conversations. Back and forth through Gmail. I asked them about their present situation, where they were, what they'd already tried, how long they'd been sitting on this, what it would mean for them if they could finally crack it. No script, just listening. And when somebody was ready, I sent them the Google Doc. Clean, clear document that laid out the repositioned offer in a way that spoke directly to what they told me. Without rewriting the doc for each person, the framing did the work. Again, no sales calls, no Zoom, no closing scripts, just Gmail and a Google Doc. Over the course of a year, we enrolled over 100 people into that program at that new price point. The business made more money per sale than they ever had, even after paying me my 40%, completely bolt on. We never touched their existing sales and marketing. We just went and got the money that was already there. I made $4,000 per enrollment. $4,000, 40%, on leads that they'd already paid for, selling a solution that already worked to buyers who just needed to be reached differently. That is what $1 Million List Leverage actually looks like. So here's where I land this. Okay, this plane's coming down. If you're someone who looks at successful businesses and sees the gap, the leads they paid for that didn't convert, the audience they built that isn't fully monetized, the buyers who disappeared from the funnel but still have the pain and still want the solution, this model was built for you. You don't have to be a copywriter. You don't have to be a funnel builder. You don't have to have a marketing degree or an agency or even a track record. You have to be able to see the opportunity and be willing to walk in as a partner instead of a vendor. And you have to be willing to use AI as a tool instead of running from it. Because in this model, the people who embrace it, they run more partnerships, they move faster, they make more money. And the people who are afraid of it are the ones getting undercut. $1 Million List Leverage is the structure. Found money partnerships are the vehicle. And I'm going to keep teaching both. The deal structures, the AI workflows, the exact emails, the partnership pitches, right here on this channel, free. And if this landed for you, hit subscribe. The next few videos go deep on the exact mechanics, how to identify your first partner business, what to say in the initial conversation, and the AI workflow I use to run campaigns in under an hour. You don't want to miss those. So if you're ready to go further, if you want to work through the full system with a community of people who are actually running found money partnerships right now, there is a link in the description. No pressure, there's no sales call, just information. Go read it, decide if it makes sense. All right, I am going to go FaceTime my daughter. I just want you to win.